19-year-old loan officer Amy Wishard says she's pregnant with her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old mechanic Ken Hayes' baby, and he owes her money. He says he owes her nothing.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, it's case number 328 on the calendar in the matter of Wishard versus Hayes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Oh, Miss Wishard. You have a problem.
Yes.
You had an on-again, off-again relationship with this gentleman.
Yes.
According to these papers, mostly off.
Yes.
But for a fleeting moment while it was on, you got yourself pregnant. Now it's off. Right? What are you laughing about? Shouldn't do that by yourself. Right? And to add insult to injury, he owes you money.
Yes.
So, why don't you tell me what he owes you money for?
He owes me around $660. In January, we got an apartment together under the pretense that he was going to get a salary job. He had been working for his brother, and it was kind of a partnership relationship, so if they didn't get paid, they didn't get paid.
How long had you been together up until that point?
Around 2 years.
And were you living together before that?
For about 3 months prior to that, but not before that.
Had you discussed getting married?
A few times.
Did you do the talking or did he do the talking?
I guess it depended on the situation. You know, when I felt like I wanted to, I would talk to him, and usually when he would screw up, then he would talk to me about it.
What do you mean when he would screw up?
When, you know, when he had done something wrong and knew he was at fault, then he would say, oh, baby, you know, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to be with you forever. Let's get married.
He actually used the M word?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Spending the rest of my life with you, wanting to be with you together, I've heard a lot since I've been sitting here. The M word I haven't heard so much. So you took this new apartment.
Yes.
You both signed the lease.
Yes.
And what happened?
We got 2 weeks free rent because we moved in the middle of January. And then it was coming time for rent to be due at the beginning of February. He had not gotten a salary position with his brother or with any other company. And I told him that he either needed to get the rent money together or get out. And then I said, no, I don't even want to bother with that. Either you need to leave or I need to leave, and we need to settle up on the lease.
Was it the financial frustration that finally got to you?
That was part of it, and just he wasn't owning up to his responsibility. I would have never moved in the larger and more expensive apartment if he had just told me, no, Amy, I'm not going to get a salary position. I'm going to keep working for my brother. Then at least I would have known, and it would have been up to me at that time if I wanted, you know, to move on further or drop it there. But
what kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer for a mortgage company.
Mm-hmm. So either he was going to leave or you were going to leave.
Right.
What happened?
And I had decided that I would leave. I went and got my things, and we agreed that we were going to come in a few days later and sign papers for him to take over responsibility of the lease. Then, prior to when we were supposed to go in and sign the papers, they called me and said he had moved all his things out, which was untrue because we had already decided that I was going to leave and he was going to take over the lease. I even told him I would pay that half for that month where he could find a roommate, and he said there were too many painful memories and he just couldn't stay there.
So $660 is half of the rent for February?
Well, we had to break the lease, so they charged us that month's rent, plus they charged us another month's rent, you know, for breaking the lease, plus 2 months utility fees, and I have all the fees that they...
So it all comes to $660?
His half.
And what else do you say he owes you for?
And then I loaned him $450. Later on that year, he said he needed to pay some other kind
Well, when did this happen?
In January.
Of '97?
Yes.
So after you broke up and after everything else, you lent him more money?
Yes.
Amy!
Yeah. We were on speaking terms at the time and on a friendship basis.
So what did he need this money for?
He said he needed to pay lawyer's fees or court fees for some other case he was going to.
What other case?
I think it might have been a custody battle. I'm not sure.
And you gave him the money?
Yes.
Do you have proof that you gave him the money?
I have a check that I wrote out to cash. I didn't write it to him.
Well, somebody had to cash it.
That he cashed at my bank.
Oh. Mm-hmm. And when did you find out you were pregnant?
In August.
So after you broke up in January, you were a little more than just friends.
Yeah, later on. Yes, ma'am.
But then you broke up again?
Well, before I found out I was pregnant, we were trying to work things out. And prior to me being pregnant, I had taken a trip, and I told him, he knew I was going, but I didn't call him before I left, and he was upset over that. So when I told him I was pregnant, he said that he wasn't the father and that he didn't take any responsibility.
Well, you'd be able to establish that if you have to after the baby's
Well,
born.
later on he said he was, but...
In any event, later on,
Right.
you'll be able to do blood tests, and there won't be any issue with regard to that, if that's what you want.
Right.
Okay. I'm ready.
Prior to signing the new lease, we were going through some problems, and I asked Amy, I kept asking over and over, if she's not comfortable with it, let's don't sign this new lease. She kept saying that she was, so therefore we went and signed the new lease.
What do you mean? That's all very soft.
What?
You were going through some problems. You mean emotional problems? You were fighting? What do you mean?
She wasn't comfortable where we were at. I don't think she was comfortable with me. Just things of that nature, and I kept asking her, you know, before we make this next move, I want you to be comfortable. And she kept assuring me that she was. So we made this next move, and before I moved out, she moved out. In the same day, or it may have been the next day, I'm not sure, she moved back in. So then, the next day, we had this discussion where more or less she kicked me out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back.
I don't even remember getting the money.
And later today,
And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son. I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Wishart claims Ken Hayes owes her for a loan and a broken lease. Ken says he doesn't owe the soon-to-be mother of his child anything.
Let's make it easy. If a relationship doesn't work out, this doesn't look like the kind of lady, and you've known her a long time, who conned you into going into another apartment in order to throw you out so that 2 weeks later she'd have to move out. That doesn't make sense. She's an intelligent woman, right?
Yes, she is.
So what she was hoping for was that your relationship would work. And it seems to me, from what you told me, sir, that you both have tried to make it work even after that February when you were no longer together, right?
Right.
So she shouldn't have to bear the full financial responsibility for the apartment and for the lease and breaking the lease, right? That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Now let's talk about this $450, this check for cash for $450. What'd you need the money for?
As looking back on it, Your Honor, we're in a relationship, and in a relationship, you exchange gifts, money, things of that nature. I never looked at it as being a loan. I have to pay it back.
What did you need the money for, sir, is my question.
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Were you involved in some sort of litigation in
No.
April?
No.
Do you have a child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
She's 5 years old.
Had you been to court with the child's mother
No.
around April?
No.
Were you having problems with visitation?
No.
Well then, what did you need the money for, sir?
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Your Honor, he came to my place of work. I was working at a bank at the time. Amy, I need to borrow $450. I promise you I'll pay you this back in the next couple days. I said, Ken, are you sure that's a lot of money? I can't just be throwing around $450. Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back. And when I spoke to him about the incident with the rent, I said, and you owe me $450, and he said, I haven't paid you back for that yet? Now, why would he say that if it was a gift? He knew it was a loan.
When is your baby due?
May.
Are you still working with your brother?
Yes.
You finally making a living?
Yeah. Thank you.
When this baby comes, and I assume when you are satisfied beyond any shadow of a doubt that this baby is yours, you're going to pay support for the baby?
Yes.
Great. We're going to start now by filling back up her little nest egg for money that you owe her. That's $660 and $450 that she loaned to you in April of 1997. Grand total is $1,110. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties on Davidson versus Davidson. Step forward, please.
Banker Bobby Davison is suing her ex-husband, Louis Davison, for half of their son's funeral costs.
You folks have been divorced for a long time. How many years?
30, approximately.
And sadly, your son was killed in an automobile accident when he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
How old was he? 30?
There's 36.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Davison, your former husband agreed to pay for half of your son's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
And then he reneged on that agreement and, according to him, gave you $1,000 towards the expenses. Is that right?
Yes.
He has a defense that is interesting. So why don't you tell me about the arrangements that you started to make for your son and how your former husband was involved?
Well, at the time that I received word that my son had passed, and we went to the funeral home to make the arrangements for the burial, it was agreed on that we would go 50-50 on the funeral expenses.
Well, according to these papers, let me stop you for a moment.
Sure.
You agreed in the funeral director's office that each of you would be responsible for half the bill. But then, according to these papers, the funeral director said that since your son was married, you had no right legally to make the arrangements because even though you're his parents, you were not his next of kin. His wife had to approve the agreement. Is that right? There was another meeting with the funeral director.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And who was present at that meeting?
His wife, my ex's wife.
That's you.
Yes, ma'am. And myself.
You weren't there.
No, I was not.
Why weren't you there?
I was working.
Okay, so you sent your wife
So
and
I
your
sent
step.
my wife to represent me.
Fine. And what happened at that meeting?
Well, at that meeting is when the Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, and Tammy and I went in to review the cassette that we had picked out. Then Sue Davison said that we should change it to a wooden box, that her father was buried in a pine box, and why couldn't we bury it? And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son. I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say or do with my funeral arrangements that was being made. Because Tammy financially was not able to take care of the expensive. And it was between my ex and myself.
So what happened?
So after a few choice words with Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, she said that she would give Tammy $1,000, and Tammy was to do with that whatever she wanted to do with it. And so Tammy, in terms, handed it over to the mortician, and that was applied to the funeral expenses.
Is that pretty much the story, sir?
So far, yes.
And how much were the expenses in total?
I don't have exact total, but Mr. Davison's share would be $2359.67.
Now, does that include the $1,000 that he gave you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So you've given him credit for that?
Yes,
so that
sir.
the funeral was
approximately
$6,500, $6,600.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bobby Davison wants her ex-husband, Louis Davison, to pay his share of their son's funeral costs. Louis says Bobby changed the arrangements at the last minute, making the funeral too expensive.
Okay, Mr. Davison, Initially, you agreed to share the expenses with your former wife, and now you said no. Tell me why, sir.
Okay, originally, if I could approach you and show you this, or somebody could show you this, that when we were talking to the mortician or the gentleman who was making the arrangements, that when he found out that Tammy was still legally married to my son, that everything that we had done to that point was null and void.
Okay, may I see the paper that you have, sir?
Okay, and this is the original one that we had signed up to that point where he found out.
I'd like to see it, please.
I'll just take that knife. That was the original form that we had signed.
Okay, so the total of what you originally agreed to was $36.31. Is that correct?
At that point, yes.
Now, Ms. Davison, the original agreement that your husband said, I will pay for half, was for $3,631. At your second meeting, you chose to spend $6,500, according to you.
Well, at the time, all the funeral expenses were supposed to be 50-50.
That's not what I'm asking you.
I know you're not, but that does not include an open and closing of the grave, which I had to go out and pay myself.
How much was it to open and close the grave?
$1,024.
Now, Mr. Davison, did you understand so that there would be an additional cost to open and close the grave?
At that time, no, I did not.
Well, I'm going to ask you an interesting question, because this is more of a moral question than a legal one. If you had known, I don't want you to try to remove yourself from where you are right now, but if you had known at the time that to open and close the grave was going to cost $1,025, would you have agreed to pay for half of that?
I would agree to help, yes.
Okay. That still, Miss Davidson, brings the total to $4,600, not $6,500. He agreed to pay $36.31. So I believe that an argument can be made that you obligated yourself for the amount of $3,600. You only paid half of $3,600 or $1,800, and you only gave her $1,000, which means minimally you owe her $800 for the expenses of the funeral. The only thing that I want to ask you, Mr. Davison, the original amount that you agreed to contribute did not include the opening and closing of the grave. It was only for the funeral director. And I'm asking you if today you are prepared to contribute something towards the opening and closing of the grave.
Okay, if the circumstances at the time, right now, to answer your question,
you'll feel better if you say yes.
Well, there's no question I'd feel better, but that was not the problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads. I think that morally, if not legally, you should be responsible for seeing to it that your son received an appropriate burial. And certainly that includes opening and closing the grave. That's what the cost was.
Yeah.
Okay? What you originally agreed to, I am going to portion in half. And I'm also going to portion half of the cost of internment to you because you've consented to do that, which I think is the right thing. You'll sleep better, Mr. Davison.
Well, I've been properly sleeping.
You'll sleep better. So, Ms. Davison, I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $1,327. Thank you. That's all.
Please excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the
Nope. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please.
Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her? How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother?
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day, and we were friends for about 5 months, and then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible. Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It
as
was
a loan.
offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
Why?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating
To start
him?
out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight. And it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, you're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No, just like that, no, no.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay. The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had started being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jail bait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today...
You're not a man. You're a little weasel. Your whole family.
Just go. Put him away for 20
Just
years.
go.
So.
Just you know what? You're all going to jail.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you know?
I have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far, out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother.
Mm-hmm.
In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Mm-hmm. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age, at age 15, to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story, but right now it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age, and that how much we were hanging out together. I was lying to her, again, to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him, and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
them.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, say, you know, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship, and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, you know, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am,
You
I
stopped
have a new
seeing-
relationship.
I heard that already. You sound like a
It's-
broken
it
record.
was-
But you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year
A
ago.
year ago.
Right.
Right? So this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying scumbag. Your whole family is that way. Your dad's constantly bailed you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Koch, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Koch, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car,
For
correct?
a car or college, whichever I decided that was more
Whatever.
important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter. You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been. So you got to be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
As I excuse, you may step out. Back there to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay. So that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated.
Right.
Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys
Yes.
to go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car,
Yes, I did.
and you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your
Well, no,
husband's son, that's a good time for marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said, somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. She came up to, I did not ask for the money. I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old. You know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back
That's a total lie.
because I was getting my settlement, okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked to him.
Not since. Not
talking about his
since.
dad. He said to you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's back.
You
got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells
I
Fargo
really
for the
don't care.
check you forged.
I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Hipsher versus Lemos. Step forward, please.
32-year-old Irene Hipsher is suing her former fiancé, John Lemos, claiming that he stole her pet dog, Buddy, and secretly kept him for 2 years. John says he refuses to return the dog because it was neglected.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 251 on the calendar in the matter of Hipsher versus Lemos. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Gentlemen, have a seat.
This is a really interesting case. Miss Hipsher, this is your dog, Buddy.
That's my dog, Buddy.
Don't cry yet, okay? Because you have to tell me what happened.
I know.
So take a deep breath. You want some water?
Yeah, I'll take some. Thank you.
According to these papers, you and the defendant lived together with your 2 children. I assume that these are your 2 kids.
Yes.
The relationship was going south. You, Mr. Lemos, wanted her out of your house with the 2 children.
Correct.
And she was living there with the kids and Buddy.
Exactly.
According to your papers, you started eviction proceedings against her, correct?
Yes.
I'm not going to get into why. And sort of at the tail end of these eviction proceedings, it was about 4 months into trying to get her out of the house. According to your answer, you went over to the house and took her dog, right?
Correct.
You say you have a good reason for going over and taking the dog, but you took her dog. She didn't know where the dog was for how long?
2.5 years.
And you had seen him during those 2.5 years?
I have telephone records otherwise and stuff to prove that him and I were in communication over the telephone, visiting each other at each other's homes, the whole 9 yards.
Had you discussed Buddy?
Yes, a lot.
When you came home and found Buddy missing, what did you do?
I immediately called John at his mom's house and stuff, and at which time he told me that he had no idea where my dog was. He had no inclination of, he says, Irene, I'm sorry, but no, I didn't have anything to do with that. I feel really bad. Made it sound like really personal. So I went, other than to the Contra Costa County Animal Control, and I set up, that's when I started setting up the missing reports or otherwise and stuff. I searched the premises, went around the blocks, went around all streets, even made up signs. But that's my family member. That's
okay. How long had you had Buddy at that time?
I had Buddy for 7 years before John took him.
Okay. Now, how did you ultimately find out that Mr. Lemos had your dog?
My son Joshua was playing with his new girlfriend's son. I have no idea what his name was, but he had mentioned, Joshua asked his son, how many dogs does John have? And the boy came back with 2. Well, John automatically saw that the conversation was happening, pulled away the child from my son and stuff and told him, no, you gotta whatever, took him back, and then when the 2 confronted again, the 2 children, the boy says, oh no, I made a mistake. John only has 1 dog. He has Zeus.
So then your son came home and told this to you?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And this is at his house, place of residence. I was visiting the neighborhood.
Okay, at his house, but not his mother's house.
No.
Which is where the dog finally ended up.
Yes.
You're his mother, correct? Yes. So tell me how you confronted him, ultimately.
Well, I went to his house and stuff. Neither one of these 2 people were home, and whenever I looked over the fence, that's where I saw Buddy.
So you went to his mother's house?
Yeah, and that's whenever I found out that's whenever because at first and stuff, I didn't let John know that what was being said between the kids or that I even questioned it, because if I did, he would have just ultimately ran with my dog. So I took it upon myself and stuff without even questioning him or without saying anything to him. I showed up at his mom's house knowing that she was at work and he was at work, showed up and just peered over the fence.
So then after you found out that they had your dog, what did you do?
I went to the San Leandro Police Department and filed a case against him and stuff, which I have copies of or otherwise. It's 9711035. Okay.
Did you call them and say, I want my dog back?
Later on that day.
Who did you speak to?
I spoke to John at first. I could just hear her in the background saying how she's going to kill my dog before she gives him back to me. She's going to put my dog down. I could hear her screaming in the background, yes, John. And then all of a sudden and stuff, he's telling me and stuff. At first, it was a good conversation. It was like, oh, no, how you doing? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I asked him, I says, John, I says, I heard you had my dog. You know, he says, Irene, I don't have your dog. I haven't seen him. I says, John, I was there. Ask your mom if I went by, because I went by her place of employment. She was standing outside, and I went by in a nice little cute little red car and stuff, and honked my horn, and she's all, not knowing who the hell I was, because I'm sure she would have given me the #1 finger first. But she waving at me and everything and stuff. I called it up.
All right, Mr. Lemos. You took her dog, right?
Yes, yes.
I'll hear your story.
Okay, the reason why I did take the dog was like the last 3 to 4 weeks before she finally got out of my house. She wasn't hardly even around at that time. All of her belongings were still there, but there was numerous times that I would go to my house, check on my house. We couldn't live together, of course, so I was staying at my mother's house. There was numerous times that I'd go out there and I would see that the dog had no food or water. And there was a couple of times that I had went out to my house, spent the night out there, and she never was there. I don't know where she was. I had no way of contacting her because I didn't know where she was, going from point A to point B. And so I had felt that the dog was being neglected because when I would go there, he wouldn't have any food or water. And I felt compassion for the dog, and I thought that I could give him a better home which she could provide, because the last 4 weeks, it seemed to me like she could have cared less about the dog, or even trying to get out of my house, for that matter.
Mr. Lemos, I read your answer, sir. You know, judges are supposed to be able to relate to situations with a certain amount of common sense. Let me suggest to you what my common sense made from your answer. Let's pick a month. Let's say in December you decided to separate. She's living in your house with her 2 children. She says, I'm not moving now. You go down to municipal court, housing court, and file papers to have her evicted. She gets an extension of time. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what I did.
Because the judge looks at her 2 children, and says, I'm not going to put her out on the street tomorrow, even though it's his house. These people lived together for 2 years. She needs a little time to relocate. Meanwhile, you're getting more and more annoyed. So a month goes by, and 2 months go by, and you're getting hotter and hotter. And 3 months go by, and finally in month 4, you decide that the family pet is being neglected. So I'm going to take the family pet. Maybe next time, if you don't move, one of your children will be missing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When John first took him, I was crying because he was my pal.
And later today,
I hope that in the future
have also
you
had
make your
problems,
dream come
so
true and you really become Carlotta.
This was not my dream.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 32-year-old Irene Hipsher is suing her former fiancé, John Lemos, for stealing her pet dog, Buddy, and keeping him for over 2 years. John says he only took Buddy because Irene was neglecting the dog.
Now, maybe your compassion for the dog was mixed with a little animus towards the plaintiff, but you have no right to take her animal. And then for 2.5 years, you lied to her. If you thought there was a legitimate question of animal neglect, you have the right to call authorities and say, this animal is being neglected. You didn't do that. How come?
Well, at that particular time, before that period, she was still around with the dog. Up to the last of 3 to 4 weeks, I didn't see her that much anymore.
So if you didn't see her that much anymore,
I mean, as far as
the few times that you went by the house, sir, and the dog was there, why didn't you call animal control and say, look at this dog. It's all skin and bones. It hasn't been fed. It hasn't been watered. It's being neglected. Then they would have taken the dog. And in all probability, if you were a person who was responsible, you might have gotten her dog. But the dog wasn't skin and bones, right, sir?
No, he wasn't.
No. So the question is, now what do we do with Buddy? The dog is her dog. Yes. The dog belongs to her. He brought the dog to you? Madam.
Yes.
Why don't you step up here? You're his mother.
Yes.
When he brought the dog to you, what did he say?
Just about what he told you, that he felt that the dog wasn't being treated right because there wasn't any food or water. And so he said that he felt that we could take care of the dog better, and he hadn't seen Irene. He didn't know where she was, so...
And you didn't question it?
No, I didn't.
Did you tell her you took the dog?
No.
So you've become attached to the dog, too?
Absolutely.
But the dog is hers?
I agree.
So it has to go back to her. Yes. Period. That's the end of discussion.
All right.
Yes, sir.
You know how she said it was being treated well? Her backyard was way worse than what we have now. They have apples all over the ground, not even grass.
I don't even have an apple tree anymore.
Tell me your name.
Jason.
Jason.
Pimentel.
Do you think this dog knows who you are?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let the dog go.
Come on, buddy. Come here, buddy. Come here, yes. Oh, yes. No, that's okay, boy. That's okay, boy. It's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Don't hit him too hard, Jason.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good Bobby's. That's a good Bobby dog. Yes, it is.
Now, the question is, Mr. Lemos.
Stay.
You did the absolute wrong thing, and I think that you traumatized not only the plaintiff, she's an adult.
Dog.
But these two little kids, they weren't even there. That's all right. The dog's going to have to get used to, let the dog go. The dog's going to have to get used to your family all over again. But you traumatized two little children who were really innocents, and you traumatized them because you were annoyed that their mother wasn't moving out of your house fast enough.
Buddy.
True.
Buddy.
So,
The kids weren't there the whole time.
for want of a better word, sir,
Buddy.
you have to be punished.
Buddy, come.
So I'm going to punish you to the tune of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Buddy.
Out the back door to your right.
More.
Basically, it all boils down to he's a mommy's boy. He has a brand new house. He's been living with mommy for the past 2.5 years.
No, I
and him and I've
haven't.
been broke up. Yes, you
No,
have.
I'm back at my house.
And now the next case.
Parties on Innocente versus Sierra Olivia. Step forward, please.
Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
This is a case about principle. Plus $100.
Exactly.
What's your first name?
Celeste.
Celeste. And your first name, sir?
Jesus.
You are an actress by profession, or is that your avocation?
Well, I wish I earned more money at it, but it is my profession.
Okay. According to this complaint, Jesus offered you a role in a play that he was producing, correct?
Yes, correct.
A big role.
Mm-hmm.
And that play was to be performed at a small theater in September. I believe September 13th and 14th.
12th and 13th.
According to you, sometime later, he advised you that you didn't have the part. You had to audition for it again.
No, he never advised me that I didn't have the part.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Actress Celeste Innocenti is suing playwright Jesus Sierra Oliva. She claims after he promised her the lead role in a play he was producing, the role was given to another actress. He says it was up to the director.
He said you had to audition for it again. He had some problems with the production.
He didn't say that I had to audition for it again,
What did he
Your Honor.
say?
He did say that auditions would be held. He left a message on my machine in late August, and then when I called him back, he said there were so many new parts and so many people had dropped out. He asked about my availability at that time. And then I told him, well, I'd been working on it for 2 months, and you have to understand, he initially called me to audition. He had gotten my name, and he said, well, you know, I heard you were a very good actress, and I would like you to audition. So at that point, having invested all this time and energy, I said yes. And in fact, the venue had been changed to a better theater, a more inconvenient date. But then I did say, yes, I was still interested.
So you did go and audition again?
Well, no, the director, finally he had gotten a new director because the previous director had dropped out. So the director never did answer my calls or return my calls, and finally I did get a hold of him, and he said, well, rehearsals will begin on next Monday. This was September 1st, Labor Day, and then there will be every Monday and Tuesday until the performance. And then that Friday he called me back and said there were going to be auditions Saturday and Sunday, and I said, excuse me, auditions? I had been working on this role for 2 months, and Jesus had hired me to do this role. And he said, well, then come in and meet me. And then the next morning, being Princess Di's funeral day, I get in there. I was already depressed. I get in. I heard somebody reading for the role, and then I asked Jesus about it, and even then he said, oh, no, you are Mama Carlotta. And then he said, you are the best I've seen so far. And you know, at that point, the director still didn't, you know...
Ultimately, he chose somebody else, the director.
The director told me that Jesus had never told him that the role was precast.
Okay. So he hired somebody else.
Exactly, yes.
And they had promised you a $100 stipend for this performance.
Yes.
You, sir, according to your answer, had some problems with the original production. Is that right?
Yes, I had problems that my theater, which I had for the 12th and the 13th of September, I thought I had already made the deal with the director of the Chicano Center. And it resulted that at the end, he said on July, when I called him, Jesus, I'm very sorry. I didn't put you on the list. Your event is not in my calendar. So I felt terrible because I had already promised my actors that they would be performing on the 12th and the 13th.
Now let me stop you right there, sir. When you say you promised your actors, this is one of the actors that you promised.
I did.
Now, could you, and then you went out and had to hire a new place and a new director.
That's right.
So you hired a new director.
Yes.
You did the hiring.
I
Why
did.
didn't you tell the new director that this lady had the part?
I told him that I already had 6 actors. I had already lost 6 of them. And the director insisted on being himself Maximilian, or else he would not be part of the production. And then it seemed to me like everybody wanted to be Maximilian, all the men wanted to be Maximilian, and all the ladies wanted to be Carlotta.
Just a minute. Am I correct, sir, that you had already promised her the role of Carlotta?
Yes.
Well, so if everybody wanted to be Carlotta, what difference does it make? This is your production. Why didn't you just say to the director, you can cast anybody else that you want for other roles?
Yeah.
But I already have promised this lady, and for 2 months she's been working on the role of Carlotta. Is there any reason why you didn't say that?
Because I did not ask Celeste to work on the role for 2 months. I told everybody that their commitment would be for only the 2 first weeks of September.
For the performance?
For the performance
No,
only.
just a second.
And the rehearsals.
But she's an actress, so she was working on the part. Did you give her the script?
Yes, I did.
So she had the script from the
Yes.
time you first promised her the role.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
As far as I'm concerned, sir, you had an obligation when you hired a new director to tell him that at least one of these parts was already promised to this lady, because you had given your word to her. She, as a result of your promise, went out and performed her job, which was to familiarize herself with the role, to work on it for a couple of months. It was within your control to see to it that she got the part, because the director was also your employee. And you could have said to the director, pick anybody else you like, sir. Carlotta's spoken for. You didn't do that.
I did not, because he said, I am going to choose the actors.
Listen, you say I'm the boss, applesauce. You can pick anybody else you like. Carlotta is spoken for. The commitment was for $100?
Yes, it was.
That's what you're suing for?
Yes.
Vindicated, $100 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Forward, please.
53-year-old Janet Clifton is suing her daughter-in-law, 27-year-old Tina Clifton, for child care costs and attorney fees incurred while Tina was in jail.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 449 on the calendar in the matter of Clifton versus Clifton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Well, this certainly sounds like a family tragedy. Mrs. Clifton, this is your daughter-in-law, your son's wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You claim that you advanced to her or loaned her $2,500 for a lawyer when
Yes,
she was
ma'am.
incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
That she has had a serious history of substance abuse.
Yes, ma'am.
As a result of that, you are caring for her children, and you also want $2,500 for the care of her children.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how long your son and daughter-in-law were married.
They've been married approximately 4 years. They have 2 little boys, one 3, 1 year and a half old. She moved into my home in October, and I didn't really realize how bad her problem was until...
When you say she moved into your home, where was your son?
He was living there also already. He had moved in September. The boys moved in October. She moved in around the 1st of November.
Was it after she had moved in with you that she was incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now tell me how this lawyer's bill came about.
Her problem started with me, that I knew that she had a bad problem, was in December and January, where she would want to get high or take off and drink, and she'd climb out the window. We reported her missing person one time. She was gone for like 5 or 6 days. And through the whole month of January, I think she left the house like 3 to 4 times and didn't say where she was going, when she would be back. Didn't even tell us she was going. One day she climbed out my bathroom window.
Would you tell me about the lawyer, please?
Then she got locked up.
When?
February the 18th of '97.
Okay.
So I had gone to Lancaster to her court hearings like 3 to 4 times, and they were putting her in state prison. So she calls me and tells me to go talk to her previous lawyer about seeing if they could not get her into a rehab place or getting her out of jail.
She was, in fact, in jail at that time when she called you.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you say a previous lawyer, she had a previous arrest history?
Yes, she's got 2 felony marks against her already.
For drugs?
One for, I don't know what they call it. She wrote some kind of a check and deposited it into her bank account.
Okay.
2 or 3 days later, drew the money out. The bank noticed that it was not a true bank account.
Okay.
Okay. That's 1 felony mark. June, I think it was, of '96. She got picked up for possession.
Of drugs?
Right.
Okay, and this
They locked her up 2 weeks then.
All right, so the attorney who had represented her in these previous matters was the attorney she wanted you to go to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you knew who that attorney was?
Yes, ma'am.
So you went to the attorney, and what was his retainer?
His retainer was $2,450, $2,450.
And how much did you, in fact, pay him?
On March 4th, I paid him $1,500. I have the receipt right here.
Okay.
And in May 6th, I paid him another $550. Here's both the receipts.
Okay, so let's deal with try to keep it simple. Let's talk about the attorney's fees first. In your answer, you will say that you are not responsible for these attorney's fees. You want to tell me why?
I got incarcerated because I violated my probation because I had a dirty test back in '96. So I knew I was going to get some time in February when I went. And there's nothing a lawyer could do for me that a public defender couldn't. But I guess my husband kept telling my mother-in-law that he wanted to get me out because I was in there longer than I guess they figured I should have been. And she called me and asked me what the name of the lawyer was and what the number was, and so I gave it to her. I did not call her and ask her because I can't afford it. There's no way I can pay for it. That's why I didn't ask her to get a lawyer, because I just wanted a public defender. Just like,
if I believe you that you didn't call her and ask her to contact this other lawyer, what did you think she wanted the lawyer's name and telephone number for?
Because my husband asked her to get it for her, because he wanted her to get a lawyer to get me out of there, because he was missing me, and he said he'd do anything to get me out of jail.
Let me ask you this
But I knew I
question.
couldn't get out. I had to.
Now, let me ask you this question. So you're telling me she called you and asked you for that?
No,
Is
I
that right?
called her, and she asked me, when I was talking to her, she asked me the name.
Well, now you just changed it. You said she called you and asked you.
No, she can't call me in jail.
Of course she can't. Of course she can't. Did this lawyer, in fact, represent you?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, he took the place of the defendant, the public defender.
So you knew that this lawyer was a retained lawyer, was being paid, correct?
Yeah.
And you didn't say to the lawyer, I can't afford to pay you, correct?
No.
Good. So that takes care of the lawyer's fees. Lawyer's fees you owe her. Now, let's take care of the rest of it, because the rest of it I'm not so sure about.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have a son who you let live in your house.
Right.
And do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Well, listen to me. Get him out of bed in the morning and tell him he's got to get a job.
And later today,
Why don't you give her her money back?
Pardon me?
What word didn't you understand?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Clifton wants her daughter-in-law, Tina Clifton, to pay for attorney fees and child care while Tina was in jail.
What else do you think she should pay you for?
I presume the child care because I have been taking care of her children for the last year and a half.
Where's your son?
He's just as bad as she is.
Well, listen.
Madam, he's just as bad as she is.
Listen to me. Do you have legal custody of her children?
No, ma'am. But
All
as
right.
soon as I get through here today, I'm going to go try.
All right. Let me explain this to you. Right now, I assume that in your home, you live there. Is this your husband?
Yes, this is my husband.
You, your husband, your son, who's good for nothing.
Yep.
And your 2 grandchildren.
Right.
Right? She doesn't live there.
No. Has not been since October.
Fine.
I want to get your attention. I'm sorry, Judge.
What?
I moved out of there because when I got out of recovery, Roddy was still into the same stuff, and then I almost messed up. And so I was like, I had to get out of there because I'm changing my life. I go to NA. I go to counseling. She won't let me see my kids. I have the phone bills of all the times I've tried to call. She wouldn't even let me talk to my husband when I try to get her.
That's not so.
Miss Clifton, how long have you been involved with drugs?
When I was 19.
And how old are you now?
27.
And she's got 2.
I'm changing my life. That's why I moved out of there. I left my marriage.
Miss Clifton, before you get your kids back, once the courts get involved, they're going to screen you for drugs if they're smart on a random basis twice a week. That's what I used to do. And they can also look at me. They can also random test you for drugs by taking a hair follicle test, which will indicate to the court, based upon the drugs that build up in your hair, which aren't released. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I do, because I do that Discovery Zone when you work there.
Oh, okay. Well, you haven't been in inpatient rehab for a while now, is that right?
I've been going to my NA, and I have to go to an outpatient now.
Okay. And when was the last time you were drug tested? Look at me.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Right. And I'm not going to get into whether or not you've had any kind of slippage. You know what I mean by slippage?
I understand. I know what you mean.
Okay. Because I sort of have a nose for that. It's one of the things that you get when you sit in the family court for a very long time. So I don't think that right now you are in a position, as you indicate in your answer, of having custody of your children back.
But I'm
not yet.
I'm doing everything right. I mean,
no. You and I both know that if you went for a hair follicle test today, it would not be good. Miss Clifton, it would not be perfect, right?
unless if you count back in October or September when I got out of rehab.
Let us assume that I believe that. So after you got out of rehab, you slipped.
Yeah, that's why I
Of
moved
course.
out.
And
What?
she's pregnant with another baby.
Shh. Tata. So you're not ready for your kids yet. But I'm leaving you alone for a second. You have a son who's much closer to you. Right?
Right.
Who you let live in your house.
Right.
And do absolutely nothing.
Right.
Well, listen to me. Get him out of bed in the morning and tell him he's got to get a job.
I've done that.
You know? A job,
A job.
or else to get his behind out of your house.
He works
Because
for them.
then...
He was working for my husband.
They
My
pay him
husband
under
and
the
I have
table
a-
to get AFDC still.
My husband and I have our own plumbing business. He was doing a couple hours a day just to make ends meet for the family and to help support the 2 children. Well, now he can't even do that. He will not get up and go to work. He stays up all night long and he sleeps all day. We've had the police out there several times saying that I have to have him evicted from my own home.
Absolutely right. Listen to me.
Because
If
they
he's-
won't do anything.
Listen to me, madam. You want to sit up here with your wife, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
If that's the way your son chooses to live, let's be very honest with each other. If that's the way your son chooses to live, and he's an adult, you're not going to be able to do much about that. But if you are responsible people, and I assume that you are responsible people, and you have these 2 little grandbabies that you are interested in, Your son isn't staying up all night and sleeping all day because he's an owl. He's staying up all night and sleeping all day because he's using drugs,
That's
which
right.
means he's using drugs around your grandchildren in your home, which means you got to kick him out.
That's right.
Period. End of discussion.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I want to tell you something. That makes me feel really good.
And later today,
He called me not to take photos like he promised he would after I gave him $1,500, but he would call up and ask me if I wanted to go riding on his Harley Davidson.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Clifton wants her daughter-in-law, Tina Clifton, to pay for attorney fees and child care while Tina was in jail.
He's using drugs around your grandchildren in your home, which means you got to kick him out. And the way to do that is do not stop at go, do not stop for anything. From court today, you go to the local domestic relations court or family court in your jurisdiction, which is where?
Van Nuys.
Right. And you petition the court for custody or guardianship of your grandchildren. And you do that because your son is an inappropriate caretaker. And right now, your daughter-in-law, despite the fact that she has reasonable intentions, perhaps, for the future, is still, in my judgment, not ready to take care of her children, that they would be at risk.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what you have to do. And then you can sue for support from your son, from your daughter-in-law. If neither one of them are prepared to pay support, the courts, as far as I'm concerned, can throw their keisters in jail. If you are collecting welfare for the grandchildren, are you now?
Well, he is.
They are, but it's hard getting that money to use for the
Right.
children,
So-
you understand.
Oh, I understand exactly what the story is, which means that I am a taxpayer, as is Bird. So as taxpayers, we are writing checks to your son, welfare, for his 2 children. And he's taking the welfare money and sticking it up his nose.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I want to tell you something. That makes me feel really good.
Yeah. Makes me
really
feel real good,
good.
too.
So, Mrs. Clifton, I am
have
awarding. Listen to me. Do I need to hear any more?
Yeah, you just need to hear this one thing. I have a tape here that of Christmas morning that Grandpa and I did Christmas for the
Neither
2
parent.
babies. Neither one of these parents were there.
doesn't let
She
me go
never
there.
even called. I've got a whole book here on a whole year
Mrs.
of how many
Clifton,
times she
Mrs.
called.
Clifton, I understand your frustration, madam.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I understand your frustration. There are really, in this case, 2 real innocents, and these are your 2 little grandboys.
That's right.
You're innocent to the extent that, well, you raised this boy.
Yeah.
All right? You know, and I don't know whether anything had to do with his rearing resulted in the way he turned out, but he clearly turned out not so terrific.
Because they used to be on drugs. Because they used to be on drugs.
Well, I want to tell you something. I look at both of them now. They don't appear to be on drugs now.
Not
Yeah, but now they're clean. They're giving me the chance that I'm getting
But
clean.
that's
Just
the reason
listen
we've
to
been trying
me.
to help these
Mrs. Clifton. Mrs. Clifton Jr. If you were a smart lady and not selfish, but thinking only about your children, your 2 boys have the following option right now. They can stay with their grandparents, or they can go to foster care with strangers. That's their option. Now, I would assume that your boys have been through enough tumult in their lives, through enough uprooting, seen enough in their young lives to last them a lifetime between you and your husband. So right now they are at least in a relatively stable environment as soon as they get the son out of the house. So, if you're really serious about putting your life in order, then you have to be drug-free. Not for 3 months, not for 6 months, maybe for 2 years. Because it's very unfair for you to say, well, I want to take my kids now. I've been clean for 3 months. You've been using drugs for years. And you have relapses periodically. I don't know how often. All I know, are you pregnant now?
Yes, I am.
Well, all I want to tell you is this. If you're pregnant now and you use drugs, your baby's going to be born positive tox for whatever you use. And I don't know if your drug of choice is cocaine or heroin, and I don't know if your 2 other children were born with drugs in their system. Were they?
Here's a letter.
Shut, just a second.
No, because they would have gotten taken away from me.
Just a second. Were either of your 2 sons born with drugs in their system?
They were not born with drugs in their system.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today.
What'd you do for $1,500?
I haven't done anything at this point.
Perfect. All I'm telling you now is if you continue to use drugs, this baby is going to be born with drugs in its system. So I suggest you start getting your act in order for real. Yeah. It's a lot of talk. It's a lot of talk. And in any event, you owe your in-laws $2,500 for your attorney's fees. That's it. I have given you my best advice.
I'll take it.
That's all.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Back, go to your right, please.
And now the next case.
Parties on Stolba versus Redoni.
30-year-old actress and model Janie Stolba claims 50-year-old theatrical producer Charlie Redoni didn't fulfill a photo shoot after she had paid him $1,500.
You claim that you gave this gentleman $1,500 to act as your agent. You're an actress model?
Yes.
He was supposed to arrange for a, what do they call it, a photo shoot?
A photo shoot,
And he didn't do that?
No, he didn't.
You want your $1,500 back?
Yes, I do.
What'd you do for her for $1,500?
I haven't done anything at this point.
Perfect. That sounds perfect. It's just going to be an easy case. So why don't you give her her money back?
Pardon me?
What word didn't you understand? Why don't you give her her money back?
Well, it's in the contract, Your Honor, that she's only guaranteed the refund 6 months after I finish the portfolio.
How long have you had her $1,500?
Well, it's been quite a while, but every time I call her, she's not available.
It's been a year. It's been a year, Your Honor.
It's been a year?
Just about a year.
Good.
2 more
Judgment
months.
in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That was
Back
easy.
over to you. Step forward, please.
Stephanie Intreri claims real estate agent Paul Woodcock left her shaking and in tears when he broke into her home. Paul says he had an appointment.
Order. All rise.
Judge, this is case number 551 on the calendar in the matter of Intreri versus Woodcock. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Mr. Woodcock, you're a real estate broker, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Miss Intreri, you reside in an apartment in a building that's going to be sold.
Was.
Was sold.
No, was going to be.
Was going to be sold. And according to your complaint, you're home one day, ill from work.
No, I'm disabled, actually.
You were home?
Yes, I was.
And the defendant broke into your apartment?
That's correct.
I didn't break into nobody's apartment.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That I said according to her complaint,
Right.
Mr. Woodcock.
Okay,
That's
that's
what
fine.
happened. You're going to tell me your version of the events,
Right.
sir. So since you knew that this building was going to be sold, I assume that you had made arrangements with regard to showing your apartment, correct?
Yes, in the past it was done regularly.
Tell me
several
about
times.
the procedure.
The procedure was, it was multiple listings, and the realtor would telephone, send notice by mail, and speak with my husband in general, make arrangements for a specific day and time that was convenient for both of us, and we would make our home available for showing.
And during what period of time, Miss Intreri, did you show your apartment?
This was over a period of probably about 4 months.
And how many times did you actually make yourself available to show the apartment?
I know of at least 4 times that individuals came in and viewed the flat.
Now, when did this occur, this instance with Mr. Woodcock?
Well, on May 13th, I was home. I suffer from severe arthritis from an auto accident, and I was home convalescing, It was in the afternoon. I was home in my bedclothes, and the doorbell rang. Well, I wasn't expecting company. I live in the Haight-Ashbury district, and unless you're expecting someone, basically you don't answer your door. For that reason, we have a gate in the front of our building, as most
Mr.
people
Woodcock,
do.
you may want to listen to this, sir.
As most people do in the neighborhood. About 5-10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again, except it rang urgently. And so I got up, I went to my window. We live in a Victorian flat, so this is quite a distance from the back to the front. And I look out the window, I see no one I recognize, and I see...
How many people did you see?
I saw 2 people.
Okay.
And an old vehicle. And again, I did not answer because I don't know who this is. I'm home alone. Thereafter, I hear what appears to be someone dismantling my front door. And shaken, upset, I phone 911. And I speak with the 911 operator, tell her that it sounds like someone is breaking into my home. And she holds me on the line, and it gets to the point where it sounds like someone's kicking the door in. By this time, I am shaking like a leaf, trying to figure out, should I run? Should I try to defend myself? What exactly to do? Thereafter, the 911 operator informs me that it is safe to go downstairs. We have about 30 stairs, and because the police had arrived. When I get downstairs, again in my bedclothes, I find the police along with Mr. Woodcock, who I didn't know from Adam at the time, because my husband generally would show the house.
Okay, you didn't know him. The police were there.
And Mr. Woodcock asked me boldly, why didn't you open your door?
Right.
I ignore him because this is just ridiculous. I'm actually irate.
Describe your front door.
I have pictures, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please?
And this is what was broken into. First the gate, then the door, then the chain was kicked off.
No, that's not. No, wait a minute.
And
Stop. I've had enough of this. Wait a minute.
Hey,
No,
listen,
no. Wait a second, please. Hey.
Don't. Hey.
No,
Jay!
Okay, all right. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Your Honor, I wasn't even positive that they had completely entered until I found that piece of chain that was part of the, chain on the floor.
Okay. And that's what happened that day, correct?
That's what happened, except that it left me shaking, like a leaf, crying. I had to call my physician for medication to calm down. It went downhill after that into ulcers because he continued to harass myself and my family.
Okay. Now, my question to you is, had either you or your husband received notice in writing that someone was going to be showing your apartment on May 13th?
I'm glad you asked me that question. We received notice for the 14th.
Can I see it, please?
The following day.
Can I see it, please?
No one showed up on that day.
So to answer my question, madam, you received no notice that someone was going to be there the 13th. The notice that you received, which is dated May 12th, indicates that someone would be there on Wednesday, May 14th.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to step in because we had an arrangement because it was kind of rough. I'm Mrs. Venturi's husband.
Okay.
We had an arrangement with the realty company because it kind of got off to a shaky start showing the property. And so we had an arrangement. They would call and they would let us know.
What you're telling me is not necessarily important to this right now.
In advance.
Sure. Shh.
Okay.
Listen to me.
Sure.
Your wife was very articulate. She explained that to me. Okay. She said they would call and write.
Okay.
Got to pay attention to your wife.
All right.
They're usually very smart, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Trary.
And my husband
Mr.
knows.
Trary, I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruins you.
I'm very smart.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Intrieri is suing real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home unannounced, leaving her frightened and in tears.
Now I'll hear you, Mr. Woodcock.
I didn't think it ever was going to come.
Sir, let me explain something to you. Have I been respectful to you?
Yes?
I will continue to be respectful to
Well,
you. You have to know where you are. Now, let's start over again. Like you just came in and like I don't know who you are. Would you like Mr. Woodcock to tell me your version of the events?
Yes.
Good.
I have documentation for everything.
Just tell me.
Well, I had an appointment set for the date that we came out to the building.
Okay, let me stop you there. How did you set up that appointment, sir?
I had my secretary call over there, and then I also had it sent over by letter, by mail. And
Just a second.
Yes.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
see your letter by mail.
Here. I had several. Yeah, these right here are fine. There's like 5 or 6 of them right here. Oh, this is...
They had not called, and we did not receive that letter.
If you shout out again, I'm going to put you outside. Do you understand? Well, let me explain something to you, sir. Let me stop you right there. There is a letter dated May 12th, which is clearly under your signature. And it indicates that the property would be inspected on May 14th. Okay, that is a letter dated May 12th. Now, there is a prior letter dated May the 6th, where you indicate that the property would be shown on Tuesday, May 13th. But the subsequent letter of May 12th indicates a day later, Wednesday, May 14th. Okay. And I have the original with your original signature, a copy of which is contained in your file. Okay, so what happened when you got there, sir?
Well, when I got there, the tenants downstairs allowed myself and the contractor and the appraiser and the lender in. And the thing is that what happened was I rang Mrs. Intreri's bell several times, knocked on the door several times, could not get in, and she didn't answer. And so after that happened, I called the attorney that was handling the estate for the seller. And I said to her, I says, I need to get into the building. I had this set up, and if you can really, got letters in there regarding this as well. So I had my associate with here, Mr. Gallen, and I used his cell phone to call, who then instructed me, because I had everyone out there. And it wasn't like it wasn't planned in advance.
It wasn't planned in advance?
I mean, it wasn't planned. You know.
Just a second, sir.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned with her.
Well,
Mr. Woodcock, it wasn't planned with her.
Well, I don't know how she cannot say that, but I mean, I had my secretary write the letter. I have the correspondence inside there.
Sir, it's right here. This is your secretary. This is your signature.
Right.
It said that you would be there on Wednesday,
Right.
May 14th. You arrived a day early.
No, well...
And Your Honor...
Shut!
Yeah, all right, forget about it.
No, Mr. Woodcock,
No,
you
I mean-
arrived a day early, sir.
Well, if I remember correctly, what had happened is I called the attorney. The attorney got a hold of Miss Intreri here, Miss Intreri, and to set the appointment. I'm just trying to recollect exactly what transpired in between.
You can't tell me what transpired between the attorney, sir, and the plaintiff, or between the attorney and yourself, because that's hearsay, Mr. Woodcock.
All right.
But what I'm telling you is that your last communication to the plaintiff, which was dated May the 12th, indicated that you would be there on the 14th, which is Wednesday, for an inspection. Now, you arrived on the 13th for an inspection, and so you told me you got there. The people downstairs allowed you to come in.
Right.
You went upstairs. You rang the bell.
No, I didn't go upstairs because I couldn't go upstairs. I rang the bell to go upstairs.
Yes.
And the thing is that when I could not get in, I used Mike's cell phone, called the attorney.
But not to call
No, no.
me.
Excuse me. I mean,
Hey, listen. You have to be quiet.
Okay, but he could
No.
have called me.
Hey,
Okay.
he's speaking.
I mean,
It's his turn.
Yeah.
He can have it.
Mr. Trary, don't irritate me.
Okay.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course.
prior
I
to it
understand that.
happening.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Intrieri wants $5,000 from real estate agent Paul Woodcock for breaking into her home. He says he had an appointment.
You used a cell phone without telling me what the conversation was with this other person that you dealt with, because that's hearsay. What did you do after you got off the cell phone?
After I got off the cell phone, I called the locksmith.
And you had the locksmith come over to the house.
Correct.
And the locksmith did what?
Picked the locks.
Okay. How many locks did the locksmith pick?
2.
Okay.
I believe it was 2. The front gate. No, wait a minute. I think we're already inside. It was her locks. Are the ones that we started to pick. Or he started to pick, because I'm not a locksmith.
And then the police arrived.
Then the police arrived.
Okay. Now, how long had you been the real estate agent for this property?
Oh, I don't know. 45 days, I guess.
Okay. So, my question is, how many units are in this whole complex? 2 units. And in the 45 days that you were the realtor, did you at any time go out to inspect the plaintiff's apartment?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I believe once I was actually able to get in.
And were you the first realtor that was attached to this property, or had there been one prior to you?
To my knowledge, no. I was the only one.
Excuse me, Your Honor. There actually were others because it was multiple listings initially.
Did you have an exclusive on this
Yes.
property? For how long?
90 days.
90 days starting when?
It's in the file. You have the file, Judge.
Can I see what you
This
have?
is another real estate company who was involved in the sale of the property, not Mason McDuffie, as Ms.
There was a prior realty company, sir, with regard to the same property. Okay, so that's the case. It's not a very difficult case.
Your Honor, if I may add.
About what?
About what happened to me after this incident, because I do feel that it's relevant.
You told me that you were stressed. You told me that you had ulcers. You told me that you had
And
that you were sick.
I didn't mention I had insomnia. We went on vacation. I'm getting up all in the middle of the night wherever I went, checking the locks in the middle of the night.
Miss Intrieri.
And I never
Miss
had
Intrieri.
ulcers before. I just
Miss
wanted to
Intrieri,
add
I
that.
can't tell you without expert testimony,
I
which
do
I
have.
assume you do not have.
I do, from my physician.
I don't take letters from physicians.
It's his notes.
Did you hear what I just said? I do not take letters, notes from physicians unless I can actually examine them as to whether your ulcer was caused by this incident. Do you understand?
He specifically mentions the incident. And
Okay, whether he specifically mentions the incident, you specifically mentioned the incident.
Okay. And he can be telephoned.
Listen to me, madam. I sometimes get off the bench and go to the phone and make a phone call. Not in this case. I understand exactly what happened. You were in your bedroom. You were not expecting these people, clearly based upon this. You had no reason to expect anyone there that day. You were frightened out of your wits for a while. It lasted a relatively short period of time until the police arrived, but during that 5 to 10 or 15 minutes that it was going on, you were scared to death. I understand that. Don't tell me that it clouded your entire life for the remainder of your entire life, because that's a lot of baloney. That's a lot of, because at the moment, once it was over, it's like, you know, being in a terrible accident, you know? You're frightened and it's terrible, but if you're a smart person and are not using it to milk a system, then you say, I'm going to put a period. I understand what it was. It was somebody who was doing the wrong thing. They were not trying to burglarize my home, right? He did the wrong thing. Miss Intreri.
But it is a situation that you don't know how it's going to affect you until it happens.
Of course.
That's how I would have felt.
Of course. I understand that. Miss Intreri.
And my husband
Miss Intreri, I'm very smart. They don't keep me here because I'm gorgeous.
And I'm not saying it ruins you.
I'm very smart.
I'm not saying
I'm very smart. You can be as serious as you like. I understand. I understand.
But it was very traumatic, particularly when you have other injuries already.
I understand, madam, that it was very traumatic. For that 15 minutes, it was traumatic.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He could stand there and he can shake his head, no, no, no. But truth of the matter is, whether his secretary screwed up in sending this letter and got her dates wrong, or whether the appointment was changed by him, I am not satisfied that you received adequate notice. And he had absolutely no right, even, quite frankly, if you had been notified and if you weren't there, you paid rent on the apartment, he has no right to break into your apartment. And if he's relying on some conversation that he had with a lawyer, let him go sue the lawyer, because he's going to pay you $3,000. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
36-year-old actress Trina Mortley is suing her sister, 37-year-old Tanya Ford, for forging a check and taking her possessions while Trina was in a psychiatric hospital.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Sir.
Yeah, this is case number 459 on the calendar in the matter of Mortley versus Ford. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
All right, Miss Mortley, this is your sister,
Yes.
who you claim in your papers stole certain property from you when you were psychiatrically hospitalized.
Yes.
How many times have you been psychiatrically hospitalized?
3 times total.
And when?
Once in 1980.
How old were you?
19. In 86, while going through a divorce, and then in July of 96.
And how long were you hospitalized in July of 96?
From July 18th to the 25th.
And do you know what your diagnosis, what your admitting diagnosis was on all 3 occasions?
The first 2 times I didn't know. I just know that I wasn't well. And but this last time, I was finally told what is called, the title of it. I have a depression-related disorder, and it's called bipolar.
And you take medication for that?
Yes.
What kind of medication do you take?
It's just a mood stabilizer. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
It was explained to me that through therapy that I have triggers that are called stress-related triggers. If I'm suffering from anxiety, my brain does not produce a certain chemical that combats the anxiety. Either your brain doesn't produce enough of it or it's not producing it at all when you're having mood swings, a severe amount of mood swings. And mine are stress-related.
And you have kids? You have 2 children?
Yes. I actually have 3.
Where is the third? Well, 2 of them are with your sister?
Yes.
Where's the 3rd child?
The 3rd is with his dad.
And how old is that child?
He's 2.
Okay. Now, how many sisters do you have?
This is the only sister I have.
Who are you?
The mother.
I knew that.
Thank you.
Your claim is that your sister took some of your property. I assume that that was in 1996.
Yes, when she took it, it was in 1996.
So tell me what property you believe she took from you in 1996, and tell me the circumstances.
Okay, when I was released from the hospital, I went to my sister's home because I knew I would no longer have an apartment. So I went straight to my sister's home. I resided there for 2 months. When I walked in the home, some of my furniture, I noticed some of my furniture was there. She didn't have any furniture. And my furniture was decorating her house, her living room and her dining room. And so I asked her at that time, I was going through one of my checkbooks that was in my purse, the immediate one, and I noticed a check that wasn't in my handwriting. And I asked her, well, what is this check? You know, did you make this check out? And she says, yes, I did. I actually made the check out so I could rent a U-Haul and remove the things from your apartment before the management got rid of it. I said, okay, and I left it at that.
So she rented the U-Haul, and how much was that check for?
It was approximately $100 and some odd dollars, I think $150. It was $150.
Okay. Now, what property do you think she still has of yours?
Honestly, I don't think she have it. I think her and her boyfriend pawned it.
What?
All of my electrical appliance, computer, fax machine, printer, CD player, a voice-activated microphone, and then extensive damage to my furniture throughout the time that it was in her place.
So it's those things that you think your sister has, some of your electrical appliances.
Yeah.
And this check for $150 for the U-Haul.
Yes, and the damage to my furniture.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Let's deal with some, what I consider important issues first, because this issue is only money. Your papers indicate that you've been granted custody of your sister's children.
Yes.
When were you granted custody of your sister's
July
children?
17th, the day that they went to my mother's care July 17th. My mother called me and told Children's Services.
July of 1996?
96. July 17, 96.
Have you had a hearing after that with regard to custody of the children?
Yes, I do, and I have the paperwork here.
Can I see the paperwork, please?
I also have the paperwork that states in there that the daughter did not answer the door. I did, which is a lie.
You understand that right now, these two children are really in technical foster care.
Right.
And your sister is the foster parent.
Right.
Slash aunt of the children.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So you are receiving support for the children through the state.
Correct.
Including all of my child support. And I have a son that's my son is mild cerebral palsy. She gets all of his Social Security, so she's really capitalizing off of my children.
Ms. Mortley, listen to me. I can tell that there's a certain anger in your voice. The family court really has to be very careful. They've ordered several things. They've ordered visitation for the children. They've ordered random drug testing. Right. So I assume that there is some history of substance abuse in your past, which, you know, you sound like a really intelligent gal. So, you know, if you suffer from a chemical imbalance, which causes mood swings, which causes you to go into these really vast depressions.
I made a drastic mistake, Your Honor. After the first 2 times I got sick and my doctors wouldn't listen to me when I tell them...
You started to use...
I was trying to self-medicate myself with marijuana for the sleeping and the eating disorder, which...
Whatever.
That's the beginning symptoms of my illness.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Miss Mortley, I don't want you to get any more upset. Listen to me.
I'm not upset.
And later today...
It was that when they came to us, it was either they were taken to the dog pound to be destroyed, or we were going to keep them.
Mom had told me that I had to take Sheba to the pound.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Trina Mortley says her sister, Tanya Ford, forged her check and took some of her possessions while Trina was in a psychiatric hospital.
Miss Mortley, listen to me. In the brief period of time that we have here, all I can tell you is it's very unfortunate that you have these 2 kids that have been bounced about. But right now, they're in one place. Do you visit with them?
She won't allow me in the home.
She's too irate. I
what?
can't handle. She gets irate, and I can't handle it. I have kids of my own.
Well, listen to me. The children have to see their mother.
Yeah, that's true, and I agree. And I made it neutral, and I made arrangements where I can even take them over to my mom. It can be neutral ground. There won't be no harassment. I don't want to create a scene in front of the kids.
Listen, I think that that's the most important issue that we're going to address today, because we're not going to be able to resolve the issue of your old computer or your CD. Do you have any of those items?
No. Honor, I don't have any of those items, and I thought I was being helpful by retrieving her stuff because they had a notice on her door. her stuff was going to be padlocked within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And if I knew this was going to be such a big issue, I would have just left it. Her apartment was broken into. Okay. The place was a wreck when we got there. Stuff was tossed. The apartment manager said she threw clothes, shoes, stuff out the window. It was holes in the wall, curtains, stuff. The place was just totally wrecked.
Well, your sister at that time,
I don't have any of things. She took her, matter of fact.
Your Honor, she's lying, Your
Okay,
Honor.
listen to me.
Yes, she is.
Listen to me.
You weren't even
The most
there.
important thing that you have to deal with, and I don't know whether we can deal
I
with
have
it today.
documentations to prove that she's lying, Your Honor.
Miss Mortley, the most important thing that you should be concentrating on right now, since you seem to be stable or stabilized, is maintaining contact with your children. But if because you are angry with your sister, which clearly you are, which hopefully you will not be maybe 6 months from now.
We've never had a sisterly relationship.
Okay.
Never.
So,
and
but
it
right
has
now
nothing to do with my illness,
But right
Your
now
Honor.
she's taking care of your children.
She's always taken advantage of me any way she can.
Ms. Mortley, listen to me very carefully, madam. I cannot make a determination whether in 1996 your sister took any of your property. My sense is, shh, no, I have to listen. My sense is that she did not. It seems to me the most important thing that the three of you can do now,
I'm never having a relationship with her, Your Honor. I can't believe how she's lying.
Listen to
and
me.
I had someone living with me who can testify the condition of my furniture, and I was allowed to visit her in her home, and my furniture was intact all the way until she banned me from her home in December of '97, and that's because her and her boyfriend have a serious gambling problem.
Oh, Lord.
My children...
Miss Mortley, I don't want you to get any more upset. Listen to me.
I'm not upset, Your Honor.
Okay.
I just was trying
I'm
to
getting
present my
upset.
case.
I'm getting upset.
I haven't had a chance to present any documents,
Listen
Your
to
Honor.
me. Miss Mortley, right now your sister has care and custody of your kids. It's important for you to try, and for your sister to try, and for your sister to try to reach, to put a period with regard to whatever has happened in the past, and to try to work towards having a normal relationship with her, because
We'll never
right
have a
now
normal relationship.
she is caring for your children. It's really important. It's probably the most important thing you're going to do. If you can't do that, I think everybody's going to suffer. You, your sister, your mother, and especially your two children. I'm dismissing your lawsuit. I'm dismissing your counterclaim. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Archambault versus Archambault. Step forward, please.
50-year-old claims administrator Jean Archambault is suing her brother-in-law, Jeff Archambault, 39, over a dog.
This is your brother,
Yes.
your brother-in-law.
That's correct.
Families fighting over a dog. I've read this complaint. Let me see if I understand it. You lived with your brother and his wife for a while. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, I did.
And when you were living there, you owned a dog.
Yes, I did.
What kind of a dog did you have?
Purebred chow.
They're cute. Fuzzy things.
Yes, he is.
And then you left your brother's house, and the dog was left there.
That's correct.
You say that he abandoned the dog.
I'm saying he gave us the dog.
Then he came back and picked it up.
That's correct.
So tell me, how long did you have this dog in your possession?
From June of 1996 till December of 97.
And you want to be compensated for the care that you gave the dog during that year-and-a-half period?
No.
Well, what do you want?
I want the dog returned. They told me I had to name a dollar figure when I filed.
That's correct.
On my thing, it just says I want the dog returned.
You understand that I can award you damages, but that I cannot order specific performance of this animal, the return of this animal. Why did you take the dog back, sir?
Well, in the year and a half that they had him by himself, he was chained to a tree the whole time. He was never allowed in the house. He was basically raised in the house.
How old was he?
He's 10 now.
And how long did you have him for, you yourself?
My mother gave him to me when he was 4 months old.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
There are only two brothers. You shouldn't let something like this interfere with that.
He causes it.
May cause it, but you're older. You're supposed to stop it.
Well, I just ignore him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jean Archambault is suing her brother-in-law, Jeff Archambault, over a dog.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 2 now. I have Bear and a little dachshund.
How many dogs do you have?
We have 2 also.
You have 2 other dogs?
2 other dogs.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Chows.
He had the dog for almost 10 years.
It was that when they came to us, it was either they were taken to the dog pound to be destroyed, or we were going to keep them. I begged them not to take them to the pound to be destroyed. They were good dogs. They're still good dogs.
Who was going to have them destroyed?
He said his mother and him were going to take them to the pound.
What do you mean take them?
Take Sheba and Bear. I have his mother's dog still with us and one of his cats that he left there.
Did you ever say that the dog was going to have to go to the pound, sir?
Not Bear.
Which one?
Sheba. Mom had told me that I had to take Sheba to the pound.
Why?
Because she couldn't take her to my sister's.
How much did you spend on this dog for the year that you had this dog?
We have receipts. We have something from the dog groomer where we take the dogs to the groomers. We have bought dog food, and he did come to us in the garage and say that we could either keep the dogs or they would be destroyed. And
do you think he's taking good care of the dog?
I have no doubt, truthfully, that he is.
What do you have pictures of?
I have pictures of the dogs.
I'd just like to see a picture of Bear.
We don't have a picture of Bear right there.
You have one?
We have pictures
Yes, I
of the
do,
dogs.
Judge. I have several pictures of Bear.
Pick your best one.
That's kind of hard. How about best 2?
Okay. Did you 2 brothers get along before this incident?
Off and on. Off and on. We've had our words with each other. We're family, guaranteed.
Okay. I want you to do me a favor. Sit down for a second. What's your first name?
Dennis.
Dennis. Younger brother?
Yes.
How much younger?
11 years.
How many brothers are there altogether?
Just 2 of us.
Before this incident happened with the dog, were you talking to your brother?
Yes.
Reasonable relationship?
Yes.
Did this come between the 2 of you?
Yes.
I don't want to come in between you and your wife.
I understand.
He feels as if this is his dog. Now, he may not have done the right thing for a year and a half, but bottom line is you have 2 other chows.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And he had this one for 10 years. And it's not worth family. It's not.
Well.
It's not worth a family. And maybe he didn't do the right thing all the time. I have a feeling that's probably true. That he probably didn't. But certainly, a 10-year-old dog isn't worth breaking up 2 brothers. Oh. Would you say that that's true?
That's true.
And your first name is?
Jeff.
Jeff. You left this dog with them for a year and a half, right?
Yes, I did.
So it seems to me that you have to compensate your brother in dollars for taking care of your dog for that year and a half. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Good.
That's fair.
Good. All right, well, we're getting someplace. So how much do